This is an Israelite Jules recording.
The Book of Remembrance of our ancient grandmothers. Chapter 11. An account of Noah's preparations for the flood, and the building of the ark, and also of the instruction by Ozan, concerning the language of the Ir-Kodshoi.
And now, may it suffice for me, to give an account of the tasks of Noah, in his service for Anokeesed, in bringing forth the flood. And I know, there is no other account like that, which I saw with Urim, because I was looking in the presence of the Lord. And it came to pass, that after the departure of Yatishya, in the 72nd year of Noah, he began to have more encounters with Melchizedek the Lamb, and the people of the encampment became accustomed to seeing the light of the presence of the Lord coming from the place of prayer of Noah. And Noah would walk with Melchizedek the Lamb. And one day, he came home bearing a tail. And he said, "When I awoke this morning, I heard a voice of a man crying out, 'Help me, help me, help me.' And I ran toward the sound, and called out, but I found no one there. And the voice came from the direction of the way into the valleys of Haykêl. And when this occurred again the next morning, Noah determined that he would go down the way towards the deep valleys. And after he journeyed for a day, he sat down and prepared to rest for the night. And he thought he heard a noise. And, when he looked about, he saw a woman lying on the ground, a little way off. And he went to see if he could help her, but he found her to be dead. And as he looked about, and pondered what could have made the noise, he espied two children trying to hide themselves. And he approached them gently, and they were afraid. So, Noah sat down upon the ground, and he spoke quietly to them, and bid them to come out to see him. And he kindled a fire, and he began to cook food that he had brought along. And upon seeing the food the children came out to him. And Noah was kind to them. And he fed them bread and a water bird that he had caught. And he saw that it was a small girl, and a young lad. And after they had eaten, he discerned that it was the mother of the girl who had been killed, when she was trying to escape from Haykêl, and she had brought the lad with her. And now they were left alone. And Noah had compassion on them, and he took the young girl into his arms, and he found her name was Dala, because it was prophesied at her birth, that she would be delivered from evil. And the name of the lad was Gadal, and his vision was to rise up to become excellent before the Lord. And Noah spoke with them tenderly, and their fears began to diminish. And he took them home, and Emzara began to care for them. And Gadal would not leave Dala alone, but was diligent to take care of her. And they became dearly beloved by the people of the encampment. And it came to pass, that when they were grown, they married. And Dala gave birth to a son, and she named him Canaan, because it was said, that his vision was to be the father of a new generation of loving kindness. And Gadal took his family to live among the people of Ahah, far to the south, in the marshes of a great river which flowed northward. And from the time he found them, Noah began to wonder, how many more righteous may be in the valleys of Haykêl desiring to escape. And he came to dread the thought of a flood coming there before they could be rescued. And Noah was deeply burdened for the Lord, because of the evils in Haykêl. And his burden was of a long duration. And all the children of Noah, and Emzara, were in the service of Anokeesed, except Yatishya. And a young man named Leb took Maud to be his wife in her 16th year. And Melchizedek took Sedeqetelebab to be his wife, and they had daughters, and two sons, Sheiri, and Lud. And Ahah married a woman from far to the southern regions, that came to pass by with Arvade, and the company of travelers. And Yatishya took a maiden from the camp of his father to be his wife, and they had sons, and daughters. And his wife was named Azar, because she had a vision to embrace the covenant of Milu, and she wore a sash of many colors to express that in the beginning, she had a happy home. And even after Yatishya became Japhet, she was diligent to uphold righteousness, and to observe the holy days established by Enoch. And it came to pass, that the wickedness of the masters of Seku, in Haykêl increased, and everyone there sold themselves to evil, and injustice abounded. And they began to pour out blood. And the people there sinned against animals, and birds, and everything that moves upon the earth. And in all their thoughts, they only dwelt upon violence, and cruelty, with vengeance, and the shedding of blood. And Noah had a very tender heart. And he was filled with compassion for all men, and he bore malice toward none. And the Spirit began to urge him to call forth the flood. And the wind mourned, and the thunder resounded among the trees, bearing witness of the suffering of Matzah the lamb. But Noah remained hesitant, and he thought to wait to see if there were more righteous people among the inhabitants of the valleys of Haykêl. And Noah had a place where he would resort to from an early age. And it was a grove in the middle of a large field, afar off from the encampment where they lived. And in the midst of this grove was a spring of water which flowed down the hill, and seeped in amongst the rocks. And there were times when people would see light coming from the grove, even in the middle of the day. And the light came from the presence of the Lord, as he visited Noah in that place. And the migrating birds, and the animals of the field, would go there to drink from the water that seeped from the spring. And they were not afraid. And Noah kept his own counsel about his experiences there, and most often, he would not speak of it. But one day, he returned from his grove, and he had a story to share. And he said, that early in the morning, as he arose from his slumber, and went out from his dwelling, he heard a cry for help coming from his grove. And he thought, why would I hear this? No one is supposed to go there except me. And he heard it again, as a voice cried out in agony of soul, help me. And Noah ran. And when he arrived, he looked about, but no one was there. And the animals that came there were all behaving in their normal way. And he rehearsed this mystery to his family. And Emzara said, you must inquire of the Lord. And it came to pass, that some time later, Noah was again awakened by a voice. And he listened intently, and he heard the voice again. And he said to Melchizedek, who was but a youth, come with me. And they together heard the cry, and they ran together. And when they arrived there, was no one there. And this time, they knew it was real, for they both had heard it. And Noah began to fast, and inquire of the Lord, concerning the voice. And he was the first among men to establish fasting. And he fasted even from the righteous foods, that he was instructed to eat, and he drank only water. And Emzara taught to all her kindred the righteousness of fasting with prayer, in the manner that Noah had told her. And Noah fasted in the grove. And in the evening, the light began to grow from the presence of the Lord. And Noah sat up, and a vision unfolded before his eyes. And he saw Matzah the lamb, and Matzah said to him, help me. The burden of the valleys of Haykêl is too much for me. And Noah said to Matzah, what must I do, Lord, to obey your urgings? And lessen your burden of sorrow. And the Lord bid him travel throughout the valleys of Haykêl. And Noah exclaimed that the people would not let him go there. And the Lord said, tell them that I will provide care over you. And the vision ended. And it came to pass, that Noah became determined that he would go forth alone. And none of his people knew what he would do, nor did he speak of it. And they supposed only that he would go a little way to look for more who were trying to escape from there. And Noah set out for the valleys of Haykêl at a rapid pace. And he journeyed upon the established paths for many days. And he showed his face to no man. And he observed all that he came to see. And he beheld the smoke of burning of the inhabitants there, and the people shed blood of both man and beast in an attempt to gain power over their fellows, and over the Irkod-Shoy. And the Deceit practiced, and prospered. And the eyes of Noah were opened, for he had never before been exposed to the Deceit, or the Nephilim. And the Spirit of the Lord went with him, both before him, and to his rearward. And Noah could see that the peoples in Haykêl were well beyond any hope of repentance. And they had corrupted themselves so fully, that it could not be remedied. And never had he felt the Irkod-Shoy to be so downcast, and suppressed. And he began to recognize, that all the forces there, were intent on spreading themselves, until they covered the whole earth, and the purposes of Anokeesed in creation would be lost forever. And Noah witnessed every kind of evil, and he found none that desired to be rescued, but all those he came across delighted in the evil they could accomplish. And there were none who paid him any mind or thought. And by viewing these things, Noah was a changed man, for never in his heart had he imagined the extent of the forces of evil among men. And he made his way back home, along the southern border of the high places, along the valleys of Haykêl. And along the way, he found those who would not venture forth into the valleys below. And he bid them to avoid the great valley. And, when he returned home, he was received with relief, because all his kindred were grieving for him, not knowing where he was, or how he fared. And it came to pass, that Noah withheld from disclosing the more grievous evils that he encountered, because the hearts of this people were tender, but for some, few. He rehearsed the dreadful condition he had seen. And, the news was sobering, indeed. And after that, there came understanding to support Noah in his task. But Noah still worried about any righteous who might remain in Haykêl. And he approached the Lord, and asked him what to do. And the Lord instructed him to build an ark. And the Lord told him how it must be done. It was strange indeed, and no man had ever considered such a thing. And the Lord revealed to Noah the place where he was to build it. And it was for the purpose of being the means, for any righteous who may yet remain in Haykêl, to find safety, when the waters of the flood would burst forth, and to bring relief to the Irkod-Shoy. And in this way, the Lord brought comfort to Noah concerning the righteous. And after these things, Noah put his trust in the Lord, that he would lead his righteous people out of Haykêl. And it came to pass, that Noah informed all his kindred of that which the Lord was instructing him to do. And many of them sought to forbid him, but Noah could not be persuaded to change his course. So, all the people met together, and it was determined that they would select 20 strong men to accompany Noah in his task. And when word came to the people of Javan, they also sent 20 men from the mountain country where they lived. And they were called Ionians. And many of them were delighted to see their grandmother Iona. And she received many gifts from them. And Noah went out again, into the western places of the great valley of Haykêl. And he was led to select a hill on the south side at the west end of the valley, as the place where they would build the ark. And from this hilltop upon a large rock, one could see down the length of the great valley eastward into the misty distance. And no man seemed to know the full extent of this valley, for its vastness. And he could see the smoke of burning, because of the much violence, and because the Irkod-Shoy had hardened their spirits against the wicked there. And anyone who would venture out, from the men who were with him, could hear the cries of distress, for the whole earth there was in commotion, and the hearts of men waxed cold. And violence and vengeance swept over the land. And those among the wicked chanted throughout the night, and slept upon their weapons, and could only look forward to another day, when they would kill, or be killed. And our poor Matzah the lamb staggered under his burden. And the earth groaned under the weight of it. And it came to pass, that when the men were assembled, Noah explained the view of the ark the Lord had given him. And they pondered on how to accomplish the task, because none of them had ever before considered that there could be such a thing as an ark, albeit some of the Ionians had known some watercraft. And I beheld it with Urim. And I saw the men burning down large trees, by placing clay around them at the bottom, to keep it from burning upward on the tree. And they burnt here a little, and there a little, until the wind blew down the trees. And they burnt the tops off, and the limbs. And they stripped off the bark. And they cut one large tree, for each of the 24 leaders of the Irkod-Shoy. And they placed them alternating, end for end, to form what was a large raft. And they lashed them together with some kind of cord. And there was a large post in each corner, with a fence around the edges, about the height of the chest of a man. And they wove willows into the fence, so it appeared to be tight. And in the middle of the ark, they made a small dwelling with posts, and woven willows, and it had a bark roof. And when it was done, it looked like a box. And I beheld Ahah, who was later called Shem, was among the laborers, together with his brother Melchizedek. And when the ark was done, all the workmen returned home. And the ark was on the top of a hill, in the midst of a forest of trees, with the burnt stumps all around. And Noah hoped that the Lord would be able to lead some of the righteous to the ark. And while it was in building, none had come there. And all the wicked were afraid of it, thinking it to be some element of wickedness, meant to overpower them. And the news of this great curiosity was spread abroad among them. And the doings on the hill were seen to be some form of insanity that was to be avoided. But you will see that the Lord was able to lead what few righteous that remained in Haykêl to come to the ark, because the fountains of the great deep were to be broken up. And Noah would not give up his hope that some of them may find their way to safety before the flood. And it came to pass that Noah continued to hear the earth mourn, and the wind spoke of it often, and the owls called out at night to warn all who heard them. And I could see and feel with Urim the vast contrast between Noah and his people, who were the righteous from the wicked in Haykêl, and their people under the masters of Sedeqetelebab. And the righteous were mild and very tender-hearted, and they loved their children with the bonds of affection. And they loved the gift of life, and lived life to the fullest, taking delight in all their passages. And Anokeesed was thanked every day for his loving kindness. And the souls of the people were filled with compassion for one another, and all the life on the earth. And they went abroad throughout their lives being filled with the Spirit, so that the mourning of the earth, and accounts of the sufferings of people, were a heavy burden for them. But in the valleys of Haykêl, the Nephilim wars were becoming exceedingly fierce, and every master of Sedeqetelebab sought only to suppress his enemies, and gain power over them. And the people there had no hope or consciousness of regret. And the gift of life meant nothing to them. And their hearts were cold. And death prevailed there with fear and loathing. And it could be seen that the spirits of the Nephilim began to be the example of how all the people were to act. And the Nephilim were called demons by Motza the Lamb, and they presided over all the earth in that quarter. And the Nephilim were such that the wicked were taught by Motzor the decadent, who we call Satan, to blend a human spirit with the spirits of birds, animals, and water creatures. And, at conception, before it was born, the spirit of a child would be stolen from Anokeesed, by means of the evil practices, to become a Nephilim. And in this way, the wicked sinned against birds, and fish, and creatures, that were in the fields, and against the very person of Anokeesed. And thus, the wicked corrupted their way in creation insomuch, that their wickedness could not be constrained, with human values of decency, kindness, or repentance. And the Nephilim became the gods of the wicked. And for many, they persisted to be considered gods, by the nations of the wicked after the flood. And all the earth there was in commotion, and violence consumed the lives of the wicked. And Noah could not shut out the cries of the earth, and the Irkodshoi, and most of all the cries of Motza the Lamb, whose task it is to redeem mankind, so they may have eternal life, with his father Anokeesed. And Noah would dream of it in the night, and he would cry out in his sleep. And the tender visions of Motza the Lamb in his place of prayer would not leave him. And Noah could find no comfort. And Noah loved the Lord more than life itself. And in the midst of all this, some elderly people escaped, and came by the way of the ark. And they followed the trails to come to the encampment of Noah. And they told stories of woe. And the people of Noah nourished them, and directed them to places of safety. And it came to pass that Noah could stand no more, and he prepared all things, to use the water tablet, and that which his mother had taught him, was clearly affixed in his heart. And the instructions on the tablets were well rehearsed to him. And Noah made a band, to hold the tablet on his forehead. And the power of that element of righteousness was upon him in full measure. And Noah was now preparing to present himself to Anokeesed, and this was the moment. of his vision of created purpose. And when they deemed everything to be ready, Noah and Melchizedek went down into the valley by the ark, to stand before the Lord, at the altar. And Melchizedek assisted his father in all things. And the holy man Noah took his place before the altar of the Lord, in the midst of the valley of Haykêl, and prepared to work the water tablet, to call forth the flood. But to his dismay, he found that he did not know how to proceed. And he said, that a knowledge of what was written upon the tablet was not sufficient to accomplish this task. But Noah was not alarmed, because he was humble, and very accustomed to reproval, and repentance, coming to him, by the kindness of Matzah. So, Noah withdrew from the altar, and returned home. And he pondered as to how to proceed. And he was brought to doubt, because his kindred called into question his need to go into Haykêl to perform this task. And Emzara had not danced to bless his altar there, nor had she even ventured forth to see the ark. And the people of the encampment said to him, Surely, you can perform this task for the Lord, here in this place of safety. The Lord can hear all you say, and see all you do, from here. Is it not so? And thus, his doubts troubled him. And it was decided, that Noah should remain in the encampment and seek the Lord further in the matter. And Melchizedek comforted his father, and assured him that he would not fail Matzah the lamb, because it was his vision, and life purpose, to perform this task to bring rest, to Matzah the lamb, and the earth. And Melchizedek used the element of righteousness, and he prayed for his father, that a way would come to him, so it could be known, how he was to proceed, and his prayers issued forth in a great surge of power. And many days went by, and Noah spent much time in his special place of prayer. And Iona prayed, prayers of protection for him. And Melchizedek kept the presence of opposing spirits away from him, for he was empowered over evil from on high. And thus, time passed while Noah was often in his place of prayer, made sacred by the visits of Matzah the lamb. And the spirit of the adversary of all righteousness was strong, to try to destroy Noah. But he stayed strong in his faith. And the spirit of evil whispered in his ears that the ark was folly, and that he would be laughed to scorn. And Noah repented daily before the Lord, and was comforted. And by one morning, Melchizedek gently shook his father awake, and he said, Father, the children say that, there is a stranger sleeping at the place of water. And he is inquiring for the white-skinned grandson of Iona. And Noah awoke, and he said, Go, and see. And Melchizedek went, and he approached the man respectfully. And he found the man to be very old, and thin. And he was a traveler, and very spry upon his feet. And the Spirit was with him in abundance. And they spoke together for a while. And when Melchizedek returned to his father, he said, Father, it is a holy man, one who walks with Anokeesed. And he says he has been sent by Matzah the lamb to speak to you. And upon arising, Noah had Iona prepare her special bread and a meal for them to eat. And when all was ready, they sent for him. And when the old man came, he approached reverently, and he sat down on the north side of the entrance, inside the dwelling. And he remained silent for a while. And Noah waited for him to speak. And soon, he took off his bark covering, and laid it aside. And he said softly, I am come before you this day, to speak with the man who came from two mothers, who have white stones. And Iona and Bodan took out their stones, and set them before him. And he wept to see them, and he sang a song of praise to Anokeesed. And he sang very quietly, but it sounded to me like the song of the third heaven. And after he finished singing, the women said to him, This man before you is our son. And Noah let down that which covered his head. And the old man gazed upon him. And the man said, My son, you are highly favored by Anokeesed. And he has looked upon all you have done for him with abundant pleasure. And when Bodan heard this, she was amazed, but spoke not a word, for she had been one who had doubted that which her son was doing by going into Haykêl. And in her heart, she repented before the Lord. And she sat the meal before them, and it included also bread and wine. And before they ate, the old man prayed, and he broke the bread, and he blessed it, and he blessed the wine, which was fresh sweet apricot juice. And upon seeing it, the heart of Melchizedek was stirred. And he remembered carefully all that he saw the old man do. And the old man said, I am come, as one who is sent from Anokeesed, to perform a task for him. I am Ozan, of the 7th generation. I am the son of Tobin, who is the son of Yakin, who is descended from Kodesh. And I am the husband of Neshmouth, the daughter of Shamar, who is the daughter of Azan, who is the son of Kava. And I am named by my mother Shamar, after her father Azan. And I come from the regions of Qatar. And I have known your mother, Iona. And these are the generations of my vision. And these are my parents, who have brought me to be what Anokeesed created me to be. I am a listener, and all my forebearers were listeners. And it came to pass, that upon hearing this, man recite his lineage, and part way through show his lineage to change, and come down through his mother, and grandmothers. I asked the Lord, how could this be so? And the Spirit said, that Ozan was one of the children of the people of Kodesh, who was stolen away, and not rescued. And the people of Toa named him Yavam, which means an orphan, because he had no parents. And in time, he was brought to Qatar, by Amaziyadad with the relatives of Aku. And Canaan and Shamar adopted him, and named him Ozan. And Canaan was a good father to him, and taught him righteousness. And Shamar in her wisdom, and compassion, nourished him insomuch, that he was healed from all his trials, and became a very holy man who walked with Anokeesed. And at the time he was rescued, his parents could not be found in the land. And Ozan continued and said, our ancient mother Kava established listening, as a way to always remember, and pass on a knowledge of the doings of the Lord accurately to others, according as the Spirit would direct. And after she sevened herself, in the joys of forgiveness, she could with clarity hear the voices of the Irkod Choi speaking their sweet messages of forgiveness, in behalf of Matzah the Lamb. And that which she was able to hear, is the very longing of every human soul. And she taught her son Azan to listen also. And he is the elder father of all listeners, because he expanded listening to include all that is spoken of by the Irkod Choi in their righteousness, and the knowledge of all that is holy. And thus, Azan added the righteous skills of his father Yatzgod to the skill of listening. And because of this, he established the knowledge of that which we call the languages of the Irkod Choi. And it came to pass, that the Lord began to instruct me with marvelous understanding. And I beheld that the 7 qualities of spirit are from the perspective of women. And they are all wisdom, applying to our present moments in the temporal world. And while they apply to both men and women, they did not originate in Eden, because there was no sin there. And the need to feel forgiven was not known in Eden. But the knowledge of Azan was from the view and understanding of a man who sees the world from out of the midst of eternity. And he was able to bring the ancient righteousness from Eden directly into the temporal world. And Shamar was blessed by her view as a woman, in gaining the skill of listening, and remembering, the important teachings of the Lord, as to the need to feel forgiven. And she was filled with a knowledge of holy teaching. And in her days, the languages of the people began to be diverse. And those from certain places on the earth, could be distinguished by the sounds of their speech. And she could discern by the Spirit, the meaning of their words. And she taught this to her daughter Neshmouth. And Neshmouth added to this discretion, with that which was committed to memory, and spread abroad, in order to safeguard the knowledge of things which were sacred. And she taught her husband all she knew. And Ozan said, and my fathers have been faithful, and have carried a knowledge of these things from Yatzgod down to me. And thus, I come to you this day, as a listener. And I come to report to you that which I have heard from my fathers, and according to the leadings of the Spirit to me. and I have felt compelled to do so for the sake of Matzah the Lamb. And I trust that the message which I bring will be important and a blessing for you, for Anokeesed requires it at my hand. And it came into my mind clearly, that which Ozan was about to teach, was brought by Azan, listening intently to all that which his father Yatishya expressed, with his feelings in Eden. And that which Ozan was bringing to Noah, was sacred ancient righteous knowledge, that was established in Eden, by the Lord, and Yatishya, when they together entered into the forms the element of creation, had taken. And it is the purest, and most holy righteousness, that can be known by mankind. And it is this very knowledge, of the languages of the Irkod Shoy, that enabled Noah to call forth the flood, and Melchizedek to establish Shabuah. And I could see by Urim, that Melchizedek was deep in thought at all Ozan said. And he was very pleased, that Anokeesed should send this holy man to come to his father, and thus answer his prayers. And after a while, Ozan said to Noah, "Little son, what is troubling you?" And Noah said, "The Lord has required of me the task, of calling forth great waters, of a flood to aid him in his despair, over the evils in the valleys of Haykêl. And I have built an ark there, according to all of his instructions. And it is now, at this time completed, and rests upon a hill in the western parts of the great valley of Haykêl. And I went there to commence my task, but I fell into doubt, and despair, because I could not discern how to proceed. Knowing how to read the tablet, which came down to me from my grandmother, is not sufficient for me to begin. And my people help to build the ark, and they do not understand why. I must go into the valley of Haykêl to perform this task, as they consider the Lord can hear me here, in our place of safety." And it came to pass, that Iona brought out the water tablet, and she presented to Ozan all the meaning written thereon. And she used a feather quill to point it out on the tablet. And upon hearing these things, Ozan turned, and he said, "Little son, water cannot be sent. It either must approach you, or it must depart away from you. You must go there to the place where the flood will come, and call the water to you there. You cannot send it there from here." And upon hearing this, the heart of Noah was revived, and the Spirit speaking through Ozan, lifted a burden from his soul. And Noah praised Anokeesed for sending Ozan, to guide him. And Noah said, "Dear father, I do not know how to proceed with my task." And Ozan said, "I do not know how to answer that for you. But I know what I am constrained to speak. Our father Yatishya established a knowledge that there are feelings that we call languages, that are from the spirit of life, which the Creator put into all that is holy in creation. And when you learn what specific feeling gives life to any one of the Irkod Shoy, then your heart is in tune with them. And your heart can hear them speak their feelings to you. And the two of you can commune together. And you can understand one another. For example, when it rains, if you know the language of the rain, then you can feel the rain tell you, if it is sad and crying, or weeping for joy, or if it is simply doing what it was created to do day by day. And in this way, the feelings of it are called a language. And I will tell you what those languages are, for in order for you to fulfill your task, you must instruct the Irkod Shoy each in their own language, concerning the instructions written upon the water tablet of Enoch, which he sent to your grandmother. Our first parents expressed their dominion both in Eden and here, in the temporal world, by instructing and guiding the Irkod Shoy every day of their lives. And your father Enoch also instructed them in all he accomplished in his many divisions. And you also must instruct them in a way that they can understand in their own languages. And the feelings of your heart must not be to call them to be against the wicked, but to assemble to apply themselves, and act in support of loving kindness. And this is because all the Irkod Shoy in their various kinds are best instructed, according to the feelings of loving kindness from Anokeesed, that Matzah put into them, when Olam was transformed into Eden. And they are familiar with their languages, and will respond out of love when they are addressed in their own language. And they cannot be taught to hate the wicked, but only to respond out of grief as an act of love for Matzah the lamb. And know that Shamar was present, and listened when Azan her father established these things. And thus, the water tablet that was written by Enoch has never been used. And you are called upon to establish the use of it. And you have been specially prepared to do so. Now as I witnessed these things with Urim, my soul saw a light, and it was a light of truth. And I could now see more clearly the broader view of the situation that was before me. And I began to understand how the forces of evil had conducted themselves, and how the forces of holiness had prevailed, to bring Noah to these moments of instruction with Ozan. The evil one had been laying the foundations against him for a long time, by attacking the people who were his forebearers. And they, by the power of perfect virtue, and the grace of the Lord had established in their lives, the very conditions in repentance and virtue, that laid the foundations for loving kindness and holiness to succeed. And Noah was surrounded by women, who were strong before Anokeesed. And an account of his wife Emzara has shown her to be stalwart. And his mother Bodan was innocent, and acceptable before the Lord. And his grandmother Iona was courageous, and long-suffering in the face of all she had to endure. And the sisters of Noah, Arvade, and Atun, who were much older than him, were the progenitors of people, who did not engage in evil of any kind. And the great-grandmother of Noah was Ada, who was carried away on the day of her wedding. And in those most extreme circumstances she established perfect forgiveness. And her daughter Iona, who was born into captivity without a father, was raised up with perfect freedom in her heart. And Iona, when she had to undergo the ridicule and estrangement of her people because she was called Alman, and they would not allow her to speak, still maintained her sense of self-confidence and faith. And she raised up the father of Noah, without the aid of a husband. And the Lord provided for her, to find the perfect wife for her son. And Emzara was endowed with holiness of heart by the Lord, to be so charitable and virtuous, that she could marry a man who was completely different than any man of his time, he being the first to be born with a completely white countenance and appearance. And further, Noah was deprived of a father who could teach him the deeper ancient way of the righteousness of Eden, because his father Lamech was raised with no father to teach him. And the ancient Edenic righteousness, for many long years, had no language to describe it, in order to pass it on to others. But Azan perceived it, and understood it. And he searched to find new language, to describe it, by the voice of the Holy Spirit. And Shamar, as a little child, would inquire of her father, and persist until he could explain the feelings of his heart to her. And thus, starting at an early age, she took on the role as a listener. And in them, righteous language was brought into fuller use. And she taught Ozan. In many tender moments they found together as a mother and child. And Ozan flourished in his vision. And so, the Lord intervened again and brought Ozan to teach Noah these essentials of ancient righteousness, and brought his soul into direct contact with the powers of the ancient righteous inner feelings of their father Yatzgod. And in this way, I arrived to see the moment that Matzah achieved victory in the life of Noah, so that he could fulfill his task, and bring creation back to his father Anokeesed. And Ozan said, I will now rehearse to you all that I have heard, and have been instructed to hand down, regarding the language of the Irkod Shoy. They all have an important truth to influence you, and they can also be true companions in all your daily walk. Clouds speak the language of watching. And the truth and knowledge can come to you from them, through your eyes. And the feeling they carry is to be always traveling, and moving across the land, observing all that can be seen, to bring instruction. And when you speak to the clouds, you must think, and feel with them, concerning understanding, that which they have seen. And from them all, the Irkod Shoy are called watchers. And fire speaks the language of humility. Not the humility that is submission to control, but to growth, and learning. And becoming new through repentance, and introspection. And when you are a friend to fire, it can influence you with its feelings to look inside yourself, and see that which you have been hesitant to know about yourself, and thus, be an influence to lead you to live the abundant life. And the hills speak the language of remembering of all that which has occurred upon them. And they remember every footstep that ever has been taken upon them, since the image of Anokeesed first took form in Olam. And they remember every birthplace, and every grave. And they remember every act of love, and every act of violence that occurs upon them. And they carry a gift for you in what they feel. And the gift is a comprehension of your place in the flow of mankind, on the pathway of life with your fellows. And the grass speaks the language of joining. And if you listen to what it feels, a knowledge of that which causes alienation, and the absence of feeling in your life, can come to you. And the feelings of the spirit that gives grass life, is cleanness, and it can guide you to know the grandeur of the experience of the gift of true worthiness, insomuch that you can be free of fear to trust, and join others, in spite of vulnerability. And rain speaks the language of the cycles of life. And it speaks in circles. And in its creation, it wants only to be round. And all things associated with it are round. And in its spirit, it always goes out, and continues until it gets back to the beginning again. And thus, a drop that falls off a leaf, and joins with others, and runs in a rivulet that becomes a stream, which becomes a river, that enters the sea, is raised up and becomes a drop again, that falls on a leaf. Be diligent in all the things that you are led to know by their spirit in righteousness, so that you are not led astray to never find your beginnings, and rid your life of self-interest. But, lay hold of your beginnings, and the rain will obey you. When you speak to her, in her language. And the thunder speaks the language of prophetic insight. And the sound of it can bring you to an awareness of your readiness for things to come. And it will reprove you in your need for diligence, and maturity in all your preparations, as you bring your gift of life to a fullness. And the spirit of life in the thunder will listen to you, and the two of you can ponder together upon that which is to come. And the love of Anokeesed, in the thunder, desires for you to never be caught unaware. And trees speak the language of friendship. And they know who the friends of the righteous are. And they know who cares about them. And they have filled themselves with a multitude of blessings for those they claim as their own. And when you love them, and know them, they will tell you in the feelings of your heart, all the latest news both of things on the earth, and in heaven. And they will delight to have a mutual friendship with you. And the wind speaks the language of feelings. And as it looks upon you, and surrounds you, and enters into your chest, it celebrates the gift of life that is yours. And when it finds corruption, and alienation, and deadness of soul, it will respond out of sorrow, and it will rush in its travels, expressing its grief. And those with cold empty hearts, are seen by the wind, to be strangers to the earth. And when you express, and feel praise, and thankfulness with the wind for the gift of life, the wind can convey the breath of God into the bosom of your soul. And rocks speak the language of remembering. And they remember, and are thus called rocks of witness. And a knowledge of creation, before Eden, is always present to them. And it is in their spirits of life, and they are aware of what Olam was like before Matza the Creator entered into them with his presence, and your vision of created purpose. And they are always aware of what Eden was like, before sin entered in, and Eden became the temporal earth. And they comprehend that the earth is the home of the wayward children of Anokeesed. And they continually cry out for us to find our Redeemer. And they rejoice that he was able to enter into all creation through the man that he became, in his loving kindness. And rocks will listen, and speak to all who know him. And the sun speaks the language of the present moment. And your present moments are always moving behind you, to create new ones. And the Spirit and presence of the Lord in the light of the sun can bring to your mind the importance of special sweet moments that you need to enjoy, because they may never pass your way again. And the light that fills your heart will bring you to moments of sensing eternal truth. And the rivers speak the language of happiness. And they are strangers to complaining, murmuring, contentions, and discord. And those who share their spirits with them will be heard by them, and the spirit of serenity will enlarge itself in your heart. And flowing streams are travelers. And when they wash you, they bring peace of mind, and a strong hope for the life to come. And they carry your impurities far away. And when they encounter strangers, or those who are unthankful, they will swell, and spill over in their grief in an effort to purify the land of sadness. And mountains speak the language of holiness. And the grandeur of their speaking can bring one to silence. And hearts can feel their counsel, even when they want to close it out. And the Deceitarchoi are strangers to them, and an affront to their spirits. One must cling to that message, that they speak to your heart, and carry it into the low places. And they are gentle mothers, and fathers to us all. And they nourish us with many delights. But the evils of fornication, and acts committed in darkness, bring them the pains of grief, and they belch forth their sorrow, in their desire to be clean, and free, and holy. And fountains speak the language of eternity. And they come from places unknown to us, and they gush forth, according to their will. And they flow out to meet us, pure and sweet. And they never stop, but come to us happily as an innocent child would. And the past and the future are one to them, and are engulfed in the joy of the present. And the pool of heaven was such a one. And it is known that eternal truth flowed out to all those who were gathered there. And Ozan said to Noah, even these truths that I am placing before you came in the presence of the fountain, at the rocks of Simca, where Kava rested. And the dew speaks the language of charity. And when it comes, and where it goes, no man notices. And it is gentle, and clings only to that which is most willing to receive it. Therefore, one finds dewdrops on the tiny points of things, shining like gems in the light of the sun. And those of gentle spirit will hear gentle and mild thoughts and requests. And the soft voice of it is dear reproval, to rid oneself of hardness of heart. And Ozan continued, and he said, all the Irkodshoi are familiar with the language of their fellows. And the men of Abera can cross over to speak to them, in their feelings from the temporal world, in the purity of Eden, and they can speak to them, either as one, or to all of them in full assembly. And you, and your son Melchizedek, are numbered among the men of the order of Abera. And all who heard him wondered how this man could know the name of the one who is known only as Shem to those outside of their encampment. And they all held their thoughts. And Ozan continued, and he said, as such, the two of you have the undivided authority of Elda, and you can sound the trump. To summon the Irkodshoi into full assembly, in order to instruct them, according to the will of Matzah the Lamb, and even now, at this time, they urgently await you, to speak to them, and call them forth. And oceans speak to man, with the feelings they send forth, of the power of the love of Anokeesed, to give life in abundance. And the waters thereof will move and leap, according to their will. And oceans will resist the powers of evil, and those who cross thereon to establish dominance over their fellows, must indeed beware. And when one beholds that the oceans have become corrupted with the effects of the unclean acts of the Deceitarchoi, and from the refuse of their lies, then it can he known that their day of recompense is near at hand. And they shall throw themselves upon the shores in their grief. And the feelings of the seas call one to be strong, and determined to walk in faith, and to be diligent to perform every needful task that they have been urged upon to do for Anokeesed, in his loving kindness. And animals speak the language of obedience. And when you are obedient, their spirits will join with yours. And they will be unafraid, and serve you with all diligence. And they will give of themselves for your benefit in both their spirits, and in their bodies. And just their presence among the people will bring nourishment to the soul. So in your obedience, be kind and respectful to them, and listen to them carefully, and you will be blessed indeed. And the richness of the gift of life, for those who hear, and speak the language of animals, will be a delight for the heart of Anokeesed. And that richness will spill over, and accompany us into the heavens. And fruit of trees, speak the language of personal fulfillment, and success. And they feel the passages of your life, and want to be present there. And they come to you, to tell your heart, that patience and endurance through the processes of life is rewarding, and comes to those who are wise, and purposeful in their labors. And the spirit of life in them, will nourish your soul and body to find long life, and healing. And wastefulness grieves them. And their spirits, will depart in the face of it. And a wasted life brings them into despair. And the moon, speaks the language of the purpose of your creation. And it always brings the feelings of hoping a person, will decide carefully in the important decisions of life. And it grieves over decisions, that lead to chaos, and despair. And it rejoices when the gift of life is expanded and enjoyed by the leadings of the Spirit. And the soft moonlight, will speak to yawn about the truth, to help you to make sound decisions, even in small things, so that you can fulfill your vision of created purpose. And the stars, speak the language of Eden, with the perfection of way, that leads there. And they hold the veil, that is before our eyes. And they can inspire and call out to us, to see further, listen better, and speak more, and clearer truth. And their spirits will be waiting for us when we pass through the veil, back into Eden. And righteous people here, in the temporal world can have moments of the vision of it. And that is crossing over. And it is said by some, that it is to behold the life, that is in all things, in the comprehension of it. And I noted, as I looked with Urim, that Ozan did not include in his instructions, the calendar, nor the seasons. And this is because, Ozan established the knowledge of all the language of the Irkod Shoy, excepting those who came from the division of days, established by Enoch, of which he had no knowledge. And Ozan said, "Know, a little son. Your very name points toward the rest of Anokeesed, and the Great Holy One has put you into a position to speak to all the Irkod Shoy, and especially to those most involved in your task, to bring Anokeesed that rest. And the Holy Watchers, are ready to listen to you, even now at this time. And I say this because, at this moment, what has brought me here, is my awareness of their distress. And when I inquired of Matzah the Lamb concerning the matter, he instructed me to come here to visit you, and expound upon that which he has brought me to know, as his listener. And at this moment, the Irkod Shoy are confused. And they are anxious, and grieving. And they know not which way to turn, because they think the whole world, is mine. And in their innocence of heart, and distress, they see the great wickedness of Helia, to be corrupting the holiness of mine. And they do not know, that Senesil followed the Decadarchoi, out of the abyss, from the high plain of the eastern waste places, of Mount Mahuja, to dwell with the wicked. But mine, is only one of the places, where the righteous dwell in the loving kindness of Anokeesed. And they are unwilling to come out against mine. And they must be instructed in all these things, for without their assistance, and the power of their love, and purity, the wickedness of those in the valleys of Helia, will continue on, to only grow to overshadow all the purposes of Anokeesed, in creation. And their corruption, will both sadden Anokeesed, and threaten all his holy people. And I knew, as I viewed this with Urim, that this same condition would come to the world in the final, end of days. And in those days, the remaining portion of the great prophecy of Kava, will transpire, and the terrible Nephilim of the last times will be destroyed by fire. And Ozan continued, and he said, "So little son, you must go now, and learn of the cycles of life from the waters, and come to speak to the waters in their own language. And you must teach them, that Helia was once a holy place, and they can bury it, and hide it from the face of Anokeesed, to cleanse it. Be comforted, all of you, for the Lord has caused a place of safety, to he prepared for you, and your son. And he will call to you at your place of worship, those who he will, and they will come to you there. And it came to pass, that I saw Melchizedek carefully listening, to all that which the holy man Ozan had to say. And you will see that which he learned from him, he will use to bless all the families of the earth. Now after Ozan was done speaking, all that the Lord had instructed him to say, he arose up and began to prepare to travel on. And the people prevailed upon him to stay a while, and they tenderly looked to his care. And Ozan rested in their encampment for the rest of that season. And the children loved him dearly. And he taught many things to them. And I saw with Urim that he was little, and very thin, and his hair was snow white, and it was in 2 braids. And by this it was known that he still had a wife living. And Ozan awoke one morning, and he said that the Lord Matzah was calling him to a task, and he would be on his way. And he said, "The Lord wants me to go with my rib. And together, we will go to some Ionians, to instruct them to move to higher ground. And perhaps, my rib and I will dwell with them, before we pass from this life. And I will tell them that I dwelt in the encampment of Iona for a time." And Ozan walked away into the evening twilight, being provided for by the people of Noah. And their prayers followed along with him. And it came to pass, that the whole encampment repented, and thanked Matzah the Lamb for the rich reproval they gained from Ozan. And all were now prepared to support Noah in his task, before Anokeesed. And Noah repented for his dismay, and doubts. And he recognized what it meant in his life, for his father to be raised up without a father. And he was exceedingly grateful, that the Lord had sent Ozan to teach him, of this ancient righteousness. And he began to thrust himself into learning from the Irkod-Shoy of the earth, the nature of the languages that each one spoke. And he became acquainted with more of the spirit of life, they each had been given. And I saw, that he spent 4 years more, in his preparations. And his heart was opened up to hear how the hills, and valleys, and waters of Haykêl, regarded that which was transpiring in their midst with the terrible, Nephilim wars. And Noah, and the Irkod-Shoy, spoke often together, of their desire to have their shame covered to never be laid bare again. And Noah became a familiar friend, to the Irkod-Shoy of the great valley of Haykêl. And he comforted the Irkod-Shoy with hope. And his heart was instructed, by the compassion he felt for them, and by their mutual love for Anokeesed. And the Irkod-Shoy cried out, under the weight of their burden. And my sorrow increased so much, that I determined, to rest from the use of the Urim, for a while.
End of chapter.